Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Gray. We are the independent Rangers podcast made for fans by fans, and all of our content is absolutely free. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk and on Twitter at gersnetonline. On the website, you've got access to a forum, some articles, and a wonderful history archive as well. We're live on YouTube this evening, folks. We would ask that you like and subscribe to the channel, and please get involved in the comments as well. Just before I introduce my guest, I also need to give a shout out to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company and have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forrestprecisioneng.com, and you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Joined tonight by Mr. Alan Rogers. Alan, don't shoot the messenger, but I heard it was you that got the Aberdeen Celtic game postponed another week. So, Celtic fans, direct your anger at him.
Well, I did spend a good bit of time up in Aberdeen over the past couple of weeks, but standing tipping bottles of water onto that pitch, I can't comment if I've been spotted doing that. But no, I thought that was good news for us. It's usually us that in the past couple of seasons have had games postponed that seem to have a bit of a negative impact on us. So yeah, that's an interesting one. So I think it's March that game's rescheduled for, isn't it? So let's see if Aberdeen can keep their first clean sheet against Celtic at Pittodrie in about 25 years and help us a little bit in the title race. But yeah, so no, it wasn't me. And any suggestion that it was will be met with full legal action.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there might be a few Rangers players that are coming out and saying it wasn't me after the news that came at the time, but we'll not speak about that. Obviously, the Varel game being postponed midweek, we had to do our business at home to Killie. In terms of the starting 11, I was a wee bit surprised, Alan, because not all of us, but a lot of us were fairly positive after signing the Dairy on deadline day, and then none of the new January arrivals started the game. So what was your overall thoughts in the 11?
Yeah, I mean, I think I should just point out right at the start, I was genuinely in Aberdeen for work. It wasn't someone that made the appointment in Aberdeen under the guise of any kind of medical appointment for me. I was genuinely there, and I can prove it in case anyone wants to question that. Okay, I know my wife does tune into this podcast. But, sorry, the starting 11 on Wednesday, yeah, I was watching the game on Rangers TV. So when the 11 came out, I was kind of checking online and looking at Twitter and the forums and things like that. And everybody was really down on the 11. But, I mean, I wasn't really. I think Danny Rose earned our trust. You know, given the run that we've been on and given the way we've fought tooth and nail to get back into this title race, I think we just need to give the manager a bit of belief. We'll comment more on that, I think, when we talk about other topics about what happened at half-time. But in terms of the 11, that is still an 11 that should be good enough to beat Kilmarnock at home. I've got no doubt about that. You'd maybe say Asgard is the one that sort of isn't really performing, don't really think merits his place. But aside from that, I mean, I thought it was a perfectly fine 11. Again, more than good enough to do the job. So I don't like these kind of early mumps and moans. Sometimes over the years, I think you see a starting 11 in a big game and you think, is that the right one? I remember a semi-final at Hampden, an Old Firm game, where we saw the team and, Lundstrom and Kamara were playing when Raskin and Cantwell were on the bench, and everyone had wanted those two to start. And it puts a tone on the match before a ball's kicked. But I don't think we're at those kind of levels. I thought it was an 11 that was the manager's entitled to rely on to get the job done. So I thought it's always a wee bit of an overreaction when you see things like that, I reckon. What about you? What did you think of the 11?
I will admit I was a wee bit surprised that none of the January signings started. To be fair, though, Scott Wilson hadn't really, done much up until, he scored on Wednesday. I wasn't expecting the Dairy to start. I think that's fair enough. Tucci, I think he's performed pretty well. I think he's probably, out of all of them so far, been one of the most consistent arrival. Maybe he could have came in for Asgard. It was good to see Romans on the bench, and he had a great game when he came on, to be fair to him. But that Asgard one, it's a bit weird because at the same time, if you turn running a midfield free at home to Kilmarnock's, Diamandi, Rasker and Touche, are you going, well, is that maybe a wee bit too defensive? Do you need someone like Asgard in there or Barami? So I kind of understand that one. I was glad to see Tav back in the team. I was a wee bit shocked as to why he didn't come on Sunday. He wasn't great in Porto, from what I can remember anyway. But
how cheap were the pints?
Very cheap, very cheap. Aye, it was an experience to say the least. All culture, all culture. But I was a wee bit miffed on Sunday when he brought on Max Aarons instead of Tav, and I don't really think that he answered why afterwards. Although nobody asked him really. Because I was maybe thinking he would say, "Oh, he's got an injury or a slight knock or whatever," but no. So I was pleased to see Tav, and I know we're at the stage where we're managing these minutes, and I have been not a critic. I think I've been fair on Tavernier over the years, positively and negatively. But he can still do a job. I mean, he's a fucking top scorer, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he is. And, it was only a few weeks ago at Tawdry, Tav had a really good game. It was only earlier this season he had an excellent game at Hampden against Celtic, probably our best player. So he's obviously more than good enough to do the job. And he's still our best attacking fullback. The way this Rangers team plays, we still rely on our fullbacks getting up the pitch. Magoma's young and raw, and he's done okay. Aarons doesn't have an attacking bone in his body. He just doesn't. I mean, does he have any assists this season? I know he's got one goal and a set piece, but that chance late on when he drove into the box and pulled it back, that's exactly the kind of position you'd want Tav in. Whereas Aarons just doesn't have the nous. So yeah, I was pleased to see Tav back, and I thought he had a decent enough game. Again at that level, the straightforward home games, he's still more than good enough to do a job, I would suggest.
No, absolutely. I mean, that Max Aarons last minute winner against Livy, there's part of me that was actually now in hindsight thinking maybe you shouldn't have scored that because it kept Russell Martin in a job for another few weeks and he limped on. And
hey, listen, Craig. I mean, we are facing this situation that if we can somehow win this league, we are going to have to post a medal to Russell Martin, or even invite him up to the trophy day.
Do you know what? See, if we did win the league, I would just take the piss right out of it, and I would get Russell Martin to hand deliver the trophy to Tav.
100%.
I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah, I would be up for that. If we win the league, he can come back. All is forgiven. He can get a good bevy in Edmondson House, and yeah, thanks for everything, Russell. Thanks for the 11 points.
Aye. Well, everything happens for a reason. Hopefully, he brings his missus as well, but. That would be a nice touch.
Yeah, I'm not sure who dislikes us more, him or her, but nevertheless.
I know. But in terms of performance, the first half was terrible. First off, we'll speak about the goal that was scored, the penalty and the red card. We seem to be seeing more and more of these in Scottish football the last few weeks, where it's this sort of last man denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Does the boy mean it? Probably not. But again, it's an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Whether you're 5 minutes into the game or 90 minutes of the game, we've seen the rules be applied. We've seen it be applied at the Hearts game midweek, the Celtic Hearts game as well. So, that is a letter of the law. And as far as I'm concerned, it was the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, there's two aspects to it. One, it's absolutely stonewall, penalty and red card. No arguments, no debate. Nothing. I've seen on Twitter some tweets from rival fans, sort of, this ref, he always does this. He's giving Rangers opponents red cards, giving them penalties and all the rest of it. But they don't look at the context of the situation. There's absolutely no dubiety about that red card. The ref has to give it, and I was pleased to see him give it without having to go to VAR and check it and all this kind of stuff, because it was as clear as day. It was a straight red, and the guy can have absolutely no complaints. You can see it as well. It's the old classic. You can tell by the reaction of the defender. See, he gets up and straight away it's on his face. You can see his teammates instantly turning to the ref going, no, it's not a red. They know as well what's coming. So there can be no debate about it. And it's always one of my bugbears about football, that kind of thing that you just kind of referred to there, that sort of early in the game you get away with stuff. I sort of go, that's not the rules, mate. It's 2 seconds in. It's exactly the same as the 95th minute. The rules don't chop and change depending on what stage of the match you're at. Do you remember that Old Firm game at Parkhead where Anthony Stokes absolutely hoffed Sasa Papac right on top of his ankle? A seriously bad challenge that could have been an ankle breaker. Only got a yellow, and it was it's early in the game, isn't it? You get away with it. I'm still annoyed about It's a straight red every day of the week, no matter when it happens in the match. So I mean, it helped us out a lot, I think, because it put Killie immediately on the back foot. Because the way they were played, I think they were set up to try and counter us a bit, and that did give them a wee bit of a scare. But I don't think there could be any debate whatsoever. I know Neil McCann kind of said, he couldn't see him and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter. He took him out the play from 8 yards from goal when he was cleaned through. It's an easy red, and he'll stop playing to the gallery.
Yeah. The performance after that, I mean, it was awful, to be quite frank. The thing is, though, maybe in the manager or the player's defence, it can be difficult to play against 10 men. And I know on paper you think, you're playing against lesser opponents. I mean, you're playing against a Killie team who were sitting in anyway. They were going to defend for their lives. When they're down to 10 men and a goal down after 6 or 7 minutes, they're obviously going to try and do that even more. So I think, especially when we're kind of still at the stage with Danny Rule where, he's not one of these philosophy managers where he's got a defined system or set way of playing and, we're doing that. He changes it depending on the situation. So, yeah, I mean, the performance was obviously bad, but at the same time, is that because the team was bad in the first half, or could it be because that Killie just dug in really deep and we're maybe not giving the opposition the credit that they deserve?
Yeah, I mean, I think like most of these things is a combination. Killie did dig in, and as you say, often a team goes down to 10 man, it gives them almost a wee bit of a boost, a wee bit of an adrenaline boost. That obviously, when the match wears on, they get a lot more tired, which I think is exactly how Wednesday played out. So I think they were decent, they were robust, they dropped deeper to try and make sure they didn't leave too many gaps. And Rangers did find that difficult to break down, but that's why they do it. People often forget there's an opponent on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? It's not just about Rangers turning up, playing swanky football and winning. There's an opponent that's going to provide resistance, and if they play well, then you need to elevate your game. That's professional sport. It's how it works. And Diamandi had a shot from the outside the box that just crept wide. I think it took a wee nick as well on the way through. If that goes in and makes it 2-0, complexion changes completely, and we're all talking about an easy, comfortable, relaxed first half. So it's these fine margins, and I think it was slow when it wasn't a good performance. I'm not trying to suggest that it was in the first half, but that's what happens. In a game lasts 90 minutes, you do not need to have it won by half time. So 1-0 up against 10 men was fine. I was perfectly comfortable at half time. You'd love to see us 4-0 up and cruising at half time, but how often does that happen in the league in any game? It's really, really rare. So no, I think it was a bit of a difficult performance, but literally only half time, so no need to panic.
Yeah, and going into half time, were you booing from your hotel up in Aberdeen?
I mean, I've got to say, I mean, the Ibrox crowd these days is frigging miserable. It is absolutely miserable. It's just not a good place to play football, unfortunately, because of the crowd. I just think a lot of the Rangers crowd are just addicted to misery because of the painful last few years. We're almost conditioned to be negative, and I absolutely hate that. You're 1-0 up at home in a tight title race against 10 men. Why the hell are you booing the team off the park? I honestly don't get it. It's between this kind of miserable old bastard staring at his toes that's just angry about everything, and angry about how the team's doing, and we haven't won anything in X number of years and all this stuff, against this kind of expectation that we should be 3 or 4-0 up against Kilmarnock at half time. Those two opinions don't correlate, mate. Either the team's rubbish and you don't think they're capable, or your expectations through the roof and they should be winning 4-0. You can't have it both ways. And again, it's just this horrible sort of mentality with a good chunk of the crowd. These not all the crowd, I should add, but a good chunk of the vocal crowd are there to get on the players' backs. They're happiest doing it. And they enjoy the misery in it and they wallow in it. We've all done it. I've sat at Ibrox after 30 seconds, guys near me, fuck's sake, well, here we go, what's he doing? It happens all the time. And if you're going to the football and you're paying all that money for a season ticket and you're not enjoying it and you're just miserable and you're moaning about it, the door's over there. You're not handcuffed to your seat. It clearly irked the manager, and I think he was right to be irritated by it. He almost looked a bit offended almost in the press conference, sort of saying, I don't understand this. I mean, what are you on about? because you should not be booing the team off the park when they are winning. And in the wider context, why are you getting on the team's back when we've absolutely clawed this back to being right in a title race, currently second in the league, on a crucial game that we had to win? Your reaction to the team being 1-0 up is to boo them off. I mean, is that really where we are as a support? Again, the Ibrox home support is absolutely miserable. And it needs to take a good hard look at itself, because if we do win this league this season, if we can get this over the line and win the championship, the Ibrox support will not have helped one little bit, because it's been absolutely grim this season.
I mean, it's weird when you compare the sort of support at home versus the away support, or the support in away games in Europe. When, obviously I was in Porto last week. It's a meaningless game. We scored early and then they gubbed us. But fans are happy, singing. Maybe that was a lot of the alcohol, but to be fair. But even at the away games, and I've been to away games in seasons where, like last season, like we were not winning the league. And we knew we weren't winning the league, but you're still paying your money, you're still getting on your bus, you're still going up to Dundee or Aberdeen or whatever. And, the fans are singing and backing the team for the full game. I have booed at Ibrox before, obviously, but that's when we've been getting beat, or it's kind of like justified. I mean, the performance was by no means good at all on Wednesday, but it was such an overreaction. And, we are guilty of overreacting as supporters. All of us are, regardless of what team we support. But, Sunday, for example, after that performance on Wednesday, I'm now thinking to myself, maybe I overreacted a wee bit on Sunday, because games like Sunday can happen. And I did say at the time, do you know what? It's still within our grasp. You can have a blip here and there, but we need to go out on Wednesday and win that game and show that it was just a blip. And we did that. The second half was really comfortable. We won the game by loads of goals. But I think there's a lot of supporters that, but at the stage now, you've got a lot of younger fans who have never experienced a title race before, where it's going to be neck and neck, probably up until the final day, especially with 3 teams. I mean, I've never experienced 3 teams in my life. And then maybe there's also older fans that have forgotten what it's like to be in a title race, because, as you've mentioned, like the years and years of misery, and maybe there are a few of them that have just went, well, this is just it forever. But there's no point. I hate moaning and groaning and whatnot. I try and be as upbeat and positive as I can be. So I think you make a good point in the sense that season tickets are a lot of money nowadays. And I mean, I'm no one for telling people what to do with their money and whatnot. But I mean, if you're going to all these games and you're not enjoying it, you're kind of like, well, why are you actually going? It doesn't make sense. And it is a minority, you know what I mean? And I think that is the issue, but because the minority is very, very vocal.
And again, it's that if you're dealing with a minority of 5,000 at Ibrox, say, it's still make themselves heard, and that's it. It's just, we make fun of rivals across the city when they had that terrible manager and they were booing the team. We were laughing away. That's brilliant. They're all having a meltdown. But look what we do. Do you know what I mean? It's you want to be better than that. And again, I just the team's winning the game and you're booing them off. I mean, what do you hope to achieve? Jesus wept. But listen, the manager's made his point clear. He deserves our faith. He deserves our credit. And we need to listen to him. I hope that we don't see that again at Ibrox. Okay, if you're going down 2 or 3-0 at half time or something, right, different kettle of fish. But I would hope we don't see a reaction like that from the support again, because it's sad when the manager has to basically tell off the home support for being an absolutely crap home support, and we just need to learn lessons from that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, I heard people online saying, the reason that the fans were booing was because the performance was crap in the first half. Okay, and it's fair enough, you can have a wee moaning and a groan, you know what I mean? I was moaning and groaning in the first half because we played rubbish, but you don't boo them off. And also as well, since when did Rangers fans care about performances? This is something that seems to have seeped into the support over the last few seasons, where it's I want a manager to play this way and do this and do that. Win the game, get the 3 points and win trophies. That's the whole philosophy of this club. That's what we're built on. I don't
That's
understand.
it. You know, it's the old winning those games 1-0 wins you titles, and we're winning 1-0 and the reactions to boo. You know, you can't have it both ways. You need to make up your mind. Results are all that matter, and if we win every game 1-0 between now and the end of the season, I'll be pretty happy. You know, so you know, people just need to catch a grip of themselves. I know it's a societal thing these days. Society generally is more impatient and full of absolute wallopers. But you know, when you come to Ibrox, you're there to support the team. And if that's not what you're going to do, you know, have a good look at yourself.
Yeah. Second half was a lot better. In fact, maybe the Boo Boys could say they were justified because we went out and scored 4 goals in the second half. It was a lot better, but I would say it got a lot better right after the second goal. I think we still came out, we were still kind of the same. Miovski, I mean, he couldn't hit a barn door, and he scores a great goal. It's a fantastic finish. He gets subbed off, and then Nadiri comes on, and it was almost like he came on and changed the game in terms of how we were playing. He was just everywhere. You can definitely see what this guy's got, and it just seemed to give the whole place a lift. Really, that second goal, him coming on, he's had his chance, but after that, it was a procession. Skov Olsen gets his goal, brilliant finish, took it really, really well. Romans comes on, was fantastic. Oliver Antman comes on, you know, on another day, he's getting man of the match. He's got a goal and an assist. So all of a sudden, we've went from in the first half, everything's rubbish, to the second half, Miovski's scoring, Antman scoring, the new left backs, the second coming of Roberto Carlos, and Nadiri's the new Erling Haaland. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You know, as they always say, goals change games, and that second goal, as you say, was absolutely key. I can't remember if I've ever seen Miovski score from outside the box before. I might be missing something obvious, but I can't. It was a really, really nice finish. Nice play as well on the edge of the box. And he did brilliantly for it. And as you say, Skov Olsen came on. And as I mentioned earlier on, I think Killie had kind of blown their wad by that point. They were tired, playing with 10 men for pretty much the whole game. By that point, and after an hour, I thought they were leggy. And the gaps started to open up. But at the same time, I thought Rangers adapted and started playing much more intricate football around the box, and some of the interplay I thought was really good. You could see the confidence coming back into the players once it went 2-0, and we could, you know, we suddenly were looking for each other, we're creating chances, you know, and suddenly the team looked to be enjoying themselves. You know, I think when you're talking about Nadiri, I really like the look of him. Okay, the game's won by that point. It's against 10 men and tired legs, so you know you need to have that caveat, but. I liked him. He was quick across the ground, really pacey for a big guy. Looked absolutely desperate to score, and you know you wanted him to score that chance. Skov Olsen did really well, and Skov Olsen was going to shoot himself, and he would almost certainly have scored. You'd have thought, but he laid it on a plate to try and give him his debut goal. Because when Nadiri misses it, you see Skov Olsen's get his head in his hands because he was desperate to try and help him out. But that's what you want, you know what I mean? Teammates looking out for each other, trying to help each other out, and it was a really enjoyable last 30 minutes. You know, I thought we could have scored more, arguably unlucky not to, and that was really encouraging. You know, that's what the team is capable of, and it's just about getting minutes into legs. I feel that was obviously the liveliest we've seen Skov Olsen, but even that finish was really, really nice. It was only really from the angle behind the goal. I think you could see just how top bin it was. Really, really good, and that'll do his confidence a world of good because we are absolutely going to need him. In this run-in for that creativity that he brings.
No, absolutely. And between all that, we concede an absolute howler of a goal, Jack Butland. But this is the weird thing about the Rangers fans. You know, we're booing the team when we're 1-0 up and the performance is rubbish. We're 3-0 up, Butland makes a howler and the whole stadium just bursts out laughing. Yeah. Nobody cares. You're like,
it was one of those. It was one of those things. Every keeper's got that in him. You know, he just took his eye off it. I don't know why he was trying to play it first time. You know, he just got it so wrong, and he is prone to that. And you know, I've been quite harsh on Butland in this podcast in the past. Certainly, this time last year, I thought his form absolutely collapsed in the run-in, and he was really, really poor. And I think Killie did come in actually eventually for a few games, but you know, he's been playing well this season. I still think back, sorry to bring back this memory, but see that home game against Bruges, and we lost the goal in 5 minutes when Giga left it for Butland. Butland didn't come out, and the guy ran and chipped him. I honestly think that was the moment that everything just collapsed under Russell Martin, because at that point it was kind of going okay, but as soon as we lost that goal, everything just seemed to go, including the goodwill of the support. But anyway, I think Butland's always got that in him. I think every goalkeeper's got it in him. But look, if you're going to make an absolute howler like that, do it when you're 3-0 up at home, and again you go on to win 5-1. Get it out of the system. You know, he's had the warning. He's okay with his feet, Butland. He's not the best. You know, you could say he has that kind of goal being in the post, maybe a wee bit, potentially. So it's happened. He's got it out of his system. Don't let it happen again. You know, but we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. If you're going to do it in a game like that, it's out your system, and hopefully we don't see any more for the rest of the season. Phil Romans came on, I mentioned him. He was fantastic. And he didn't seem like a guy that had just been out injured for, a month or something like that. He slotted right in. Now, I like Jayden Magoma. I think he's been a fairly solid and consistent performer. Again, slow start, but, you know, Russell Martin's a manager who didn't have a slow start under him. And he's a wee guy, Magoma, but he's very, very strong. I think he's a great tackler as well. He can stretch. He's got a good finish, as we've seen at Tannadice as well. But you do just feel that there's something missing. And Robbins just came in last night, and it was just like a completely different level. No, I'm not going to try and get carried away. At the moment, it's probably still Magoma's jersey, but you've got to think that Robbins will start on Sunday. That is a perfect opportunity for him to come in, get a few minutes under his belt, you know, put in a good shift, and then hopefully after that we can then start to see him more consistently.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. Again, with the caveat, Killie were down to 10 men, and I think pretty tired. But you saw his attacking intent. You know, he got an assist, didn't he? Romans, did he get an assist?
Aye, he got one.
But he put a good few balls into the box, and that looked to be his first priority. You know, when he's advancing up the pitch, give me the box, I'm going to drive, I'm going to put it in the box. That's exactly what we need. Certainly in a game like that, at home, in a domestic match, we want our full-backs high, putting in crosses. You know, we saw it, Tav, obviously, his assist numbers are unreal, but Barisic's assists were brilliant as well, just from how good his crosses were. And we've been playing like that for a good few seasons. So I always thought like Magoma and Aarons just struggled because you know, they just didn't have that attacking nous. Again, I'm like you, I like Magoma. I think he's been a really worthwhile signing. But at 19 with very limited professional football experience, to ask him to play, you know, 50 games, or I mean, he must be over 30, 35 games for Rangers this season. That's a lot, and a real baptism of fire. And he's done well, and I like him, and he's contributed well. But we do need that solid first team nailed on left back. And Romans looks ideal for the way this Rangers team wants to play. Can I also say, and I'm putting my neck on the line here, he's just got that look of a player that is absolutely mental. Do you know what I mean? That kind of look in his eyes, that he's just ready to off somebody. And I predict before the end of the season he's going to get involved in some sort of scrap on the field, because I've just got this feeling he's one of those guys that's just got a temper, and I really like that in players. You know, that they play with that little bit of an edge.
Uh-huh.
He's just got that look of somebody that's got an edge about him. I wouldn't look at his pint, put it that way, just because he'd be scary. But I really like that in a player. And you've got to remember, you know, he kind of came in under the radar a wee bit. I think because Scott Wilson was announced just a day or so later. He was slipped in a wee bit under the radar because he was injured, and you know, didn't see him for a couple of weeks. He's a regular for Belgian under-21. You know, this is a really nice profile that we've brought in. He'll have come in and he'll have seen Raskin, you know, getting capped, starting games for Belgium when he's playing in Scotland. So he knows that's no barrier to his international career. You know, and he'll have one eye in the World Cup as well. Romans, if he can come in and do well, you know, he might trust himself or back himself to squeak into that squad. You know, you just don't know. But it's good just to suddenly have players coming in, giving you options, and showing up straight away. You know, that was his debut, and he really impressed everybody. And as you say, everybody now wants him to start on Sunday, and there's a bit of feel-good factor around him. So no, I really like the look of him.
Yeah, in terms of just to sum up the sort of January window, I'm fairly happy with the business. The only thing that maybe frustrated me a wee bit was timing. Obviously, the Deary deal not being done until the end. And again, it was the most blatantly obvious position that we had to upgrade in. Even Scott Wilson with the timing, because, you had Tushy come in for that cup game, kind of thinking, well, could you maybe have got that deal signed, sealed and delivered before then as well to get a few minutes in the legs, and then maybe he's not quite as bad against Hibs as he was because he's got an extra foot. I'm probably just being a wee bit too harsh on people, but I think if you said, on Hogmanay, we're going to have these 4 guys in, look at the profiles of them, and we're going to get rid of Rothwell, Dowell, Danilo. I still thought Danilo could have contributed, but hey-ho, he's gone now. But I think if you said that, I think we all would have bitten your hand off for it. And what I do like about it is that the guys that we've signed, they haven't came in to just be squad fillers. They've came in to be permanent first team picks. Once everyone is up to speed, it is not out with the realms of possibility to say that the 4 players that we signed could be the best in each of their positions. And I think for January, that's pretty good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you said on Hogmanay, that would have been our January business. We'll spend about 13, 14 million on players that are 22, 22 and 23, and we'll bring in a seasoned international that we've all heard of, who's 25, 26, with a 9 million option in the summer. You just said that's brilliant. That's the hierarchy. Invested in the team, it's investing in positions that we desperately needed to improve, and it's backing the manager. And as you say, Dowell, Rothwell, Danilo, Insiala, getting these guys out that just weren't regularly contributing or contributing at all in some aspects, to replace them with guys that come in, hungry guys that you say will hopefully nail down their positions at some point soon. It's been excellent. It's been the best January window on paper, at least that I can remember. And the early signs from all those players, I think, are quite good. So let's see. Obviously, proof of the pudding's in the eating. We've got a title race ongoing. We've got a Scottish Cup we want to win. We need to wait and see what the season, or how the season ends. But if we hadn't invested in January and the season hadn't been successful, everybody would turn back and say we blew it in January. We had the chance, given the way the league table was, to invest and improve the squad, and we failed to do it. At the moment, that will not wash as an excuse, because we've invested in the team, we've invested in the correct positions, and we've given the manager the tools to work with. Now the players need to go and deliver. But we can't ask any more of Andrew Kavanagh at all. It'd have been easy for him to say, look, we invested in the summer, see what we can do in this summer, with a new manager and all the rest of it. But they have backed Danny Rule to the hilt, and it's shaping up to be a really exciting, if tense, running.
I've never experienced anything like it before. I think maybe people are saying the last time that it was maybe 3 teams was 98 when we were going for 10 in a row, and Hearts kind of fell away towards the end, I think.
Yeah,
could that happen again this season? I don't know.
They've started dropping a few points. Obviously, Shanklin's injured, isn't he? They've had a few red cards, and they've started shipping some points, but they're still top. I think there was a statistic saying that that's the first non-Old Firm team to be top at the end of January in 25 years or whatever it was. So I must confess, I thought they would probably fall away or slip down a bit before now. Mm-hmm. But you've also got to factor in, we've been on an exceptional run of form. In those sort of last 15 games, say, our rivals across the city brought in a manager that just completely hobbled them, which was great. And they were, watching from disaster to disaster. So it's kind of equalised a little bit. And I think it's really difficult to know who's the favourite to go on from here. I think we see obviously the most of Rangers, and we've got belief in this squad, but it's going to be really tense. At the end of the day, we've got an Old Firm game in less than a month at Ibrox.
We've got a Hearts game
That's
a week in
right.
Sunday.
So there you go. Sorry.
Ibrox.
Within 2 weeks, we've got Hearts and then them at Ibrox. They are both absolute must-win games.
Yeah.
Let's see. If massive if we can win them both, then it's time to get a bit excited. But it's a big if just now because they'll be tough games. No matter what lineup they've got or who we've got playing, they're going to be tough games, no doubt about it. But look, this is what we like. I don't know. I don't think George Burley's Hearts kind of, when they were under Romanov, they kind of fell away by about Christmas, I think it was, in that season.
I think they fell away maybe Halloween when Burley got sacked.
Burley got back.
And then it was like after that, they just completely fell apart.
Aye. And then did they not sell Gordon and Presley and Hartley and all? It's such a weird season. But yeah, it's been a long time since it's been a genuine three-way fight at the top. But it's good for Scottish football, as they say. But obviously, I'd much rather Rangers won it by 25 points. Thanks very much.
Yeah, well, I did say before the game on Wednesday, we've got 5 games coming up. Killie at home, Motherwell away, Hearts at home, Celtic at home, and there's another one in there somewhere. I can't remember who we're playing, but I think Celtic's the final one out of those 5, and that's the 5th game. I said if we win this next batch 5 of fixtures, which I think we're capable of, we will win the league. I think if you beat Hearts and Celtic at home and do your business in the other few games, I think everything. To be honest, everything has went away since Danny Rose came in the league. Mostly, I mean, I think I seen a table earlier. We're something like 8 points clear of the second team, and that's Motherwell, by the way. Since Danny Rose came in, I think Celtic are 4th in that. But it's exciting. I think Hearts are kind of, they're in a weird position, but we're all in weird positions because at the same time, I think each respective fan base is backing their team and backing their club. But at the same time, we've also got the excuses at the back of your head saying, like Hearts, it was like, we've been in a good run anyway. Celtic, it's the board's fault. Celtic, could be 5-0 up in the last game of the season, concede 5 goals in the last 10 seconds of injury time, and it would be the board's fault that they didn't win the league,
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this was in one of my group chats the other day. If it gets to the split and it's all 3 are still in with a shout or all pretty close, trying to arrange those fixtures is going to be horrendous.
Well,
absolutely horrendous.
We'll have two away. I'll put my neck out in the line and say that Falkirk away will be the last game of the season. I've just got a hunch for us. Come back in May and we'll see what happens with that one. But we'll have 2 at home. We need to go to Celtic Park. We need to go to Tynecastle again. So if it is 3 teams and we need to end up 1 or 2 points and we're going to Parkhead and Tynecastle, people turn in and say that we're not the favourites. But that's why I think as well we need to start to build a lead. And I know it's close right now, but if we can go in a consistent run, 7, 8, 9, 10 games winning on a row, we can grow the sort of league that Hearts had earlier in the season. Only this time we would have it at the business end of the season, which is when you want to have it. But it's mad. It's like nobody knows what's going to happen. And
I've got a weird feeling Motherwell are going to have a say somewhere. Obviously, I'd completely forgotten we've got them next week. Well, but they are capable of taking points off anybody.
Well, they already have. I mean, they drew with us the first game of the season. They've beaten Celtic. They drew with Hearts as well, I think. So they've already taken points.
Exactly. So everyone's, if it's still tight at the split, everyone's going to have to play Motherwell. And it's kind of, in that sense, it could be a bit of a roller coaster. But hey, listen, that's exciting times. We like that kind of stuff. Maybe if we win at the end.
Aye. It's only good when you win at the end. But I just say win the rest of our games and open up a commanding 15-point lead by the start of the split. We don't need to worry about any of that. That's the best thing to do.
I'd take that. Yeah, I'd take that.
I'm sure we all would. Might just quickly move on to the game on Sunday. I've got a Glasgow derby coming up. The original one, as they say. It wasn't good when we faced them this time last year in the Cup, but look, as much as it was a shock last year, we were still in a really bad place where Queen's Park probably fancied themselves more than they ever would have. I cannot see that happening again this weekend. What I would like to see is Skov Olsen, Touche, Romans, Nadiri. I'd like to see all the January signings start. Quite like to see Anton start as well. Give him a wee run and see, because we need him to contribute. I know he's been poor this season, but we need everyone to just do something. And if everyone can even do their wee bit, it can help. But what are you thinking about the team for the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. I mean, I just think last season was a complete freak. I mean, a terrible result. I'm sure it was a case of Queen's Park had 1 on target, 1 goal. And even that, I remember thinking Killie was kind of poor for the goal. I can't remember. Someone was really bad as well defensively. Was it Inciala maybe? I can't remember. But, it was just one of those freak games. I remember Tav missed a last-minute penalty. I remember Dessers was clean through and missed as well. It was just one of those games. And, Queen's Park deserved it. They come and got the result. Fine, no problem at all. We can't complain. But it was a freak. This Sunday, I think, is going to be completely different. I really do want to see a different 11. I would start, some of the fringe players like Aarons and Bajrami and so forth, and also the January signings to get more minutes in, as you say. Hopefully, I'm sure Nadiri will start. That's a perfect game to get him in, get him used to Scottish football and try and get him a goal or two to get his confidence up. I'd play Kelly, and sort of, I suppose we don't have too many options at centre half if Fernandez is injured, but you would just want to keep it tight, straightforward 3-0 win or something like that, and just get through to the next round. No funny business. And then we've got a huge game obviously coming up on the Wednesday night at Fort Park. So I think I hope it'll be straightforward on Sunday, and if Rangers turn up, it should be.
Aye, no funny business indeed. Famous last words there. But no, I think we'll wrap up there, folks. Hopefully it'll all go well on Sunday. It'll be Rob and John on Sunday to review the game against Queen's Park and preview our visit to Fir Park on the Wednesday as well. Alan, thanks for joining me, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Yep, good to see you again, mate. Look after yourself, and hopefully see you again soon.
Yep, and thanks to the viewers at home. We'll see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.